Good morning, Kenai. It's great to be here. It's my first visit down this way, and it's a little bit chilly, but it's okay. It's warrants a trip back, so we're not getting out too much adventurous and spending a lot of money, but I'll do a rain check or an icicle check on that one. But it's good to be here, and I really do appreciate the camaraderie and the work that we do together as a team. It's just, you'll hear that theme throughout, and that's really what has made us as effective as possible. In the darkest nights, even the smallest candle is looking like a lighthouse, and that's kind of what we've been these last 2 years. We've been meeting every single week, and it's just starting to pay. It's really paying off dividends as we move forward. I'll give you a little context about transportation and Southeast Conference, and a little bit of because I'm speaking about the state's marine highway system. I'm not from the state, and I'm not speaking for the state. But one of our favorite pastimes is speaking about the state, right? So, okay, it's fair game. But no, I think it's a cherished relationship that we have with the legislature, with the governor's office, being one of the state's regional economic development districts. And that was something that was just put forward for 10 years. The governor signed that into law. The legislature passed that last year. So Southeast Conference has a very long history with the marine highway system. It was what really was our founding cause back in 1958 to advocate for that. And then the region, as you can see from the region there's no way, at least here in the peninsula, you can get to most everywhere you can get to everywhere by almost everywhere. But there it's like nowhere by road. So, our ARDers, our economic development districts across the coastal regions of the state, all share a lot of these things in common. I think we're blessed in Southeast having more timber and mining opportunities. But that's our mission and what goes into our economic development strategies. Each of us has that SEDS document. You'll hear later on today from Nolan, I think, about the states, which is kind of where all these things feed up into. But we got together as a group much like this and kind of mapped out what were the region's priorities, and we came up with 50, 60 different ones. But then we take a look at, okay, so what is it we're going to focus on? Because you can't do 59 different things. So in Southeast, this is what our main focus is on. And so I'll speak a little more about the number one there, because that's what you asked me to do. You'll hear a little bit more today about mariculture, which is one of the exciting things that the economic development districts are actively working on. So you're going to be invited to participate in that directly or indirectly. You heard from Sarah about the visitor industry progress that we've all collaborated on. We took the biggest hit in the state because we have so much of a reliance on the cruise ship industry down there, but that's they got an opportunity to bounce back. And then promoting beneficial electrification, which just kind of a fancy long way to just say, let's use our renewable resources for things that matter in our everyday life, whether it's your heating, whether it's your hot water, whether it's your transportation. And that is something we're doing more and more of in the region. And now it's gone from, from your Leafs and your Teslas to your marine transportation. So way back, long ago in a galaxy far, far away, that's where the marine highway system started. And Margaret may be the only one that recognizes that spot because it was in Haynes, the old neighborhood. And Steve Homer and folks, they were going between Lynn Canal and the roadhead, which was what is now projected to be a possible terminal at Cascade Point, there at the end of the road system north of Juneau. And that's where it began. And now it covers the 3,500 miles, as you saw on the very first slide, and is recognized as a National Scenic Byway. So this is most of the fleet. It was a snapshot I stole off of their website. It's missing the Taku, which ended on the beaches of India. It's missing the fast ferries, which got towed over to Spain. And it's curiously missing the Hubbard, which is identical to the Taslina. And it is getting crew quarters at the moment. But it's a mixture of very old boats and aging boats that has kind of brought a perfect storm to what we don't have enough money to leap to the next generation of what we need, and we hardly have enough money for the Band-Aids and patches to keep what we've got going. So what we have now is a very unique opportunity with the infrastructure bill that passed. Now, if you're going to ask me about the wisdom of keeping printing presses going 24 hours a day, 8 days a week, we won't go into that, okay? But the money was passed, and we're certainly doing everything we can to have as much of it invested into infrastructure needs that we've got, because this is going to be a one-shot deal that I don't think we'll see again at this magnitude, or the opportunities. And you'll hear me say at least once or twice more, my hope is that we find the right balance between using those funds for operations and more service, or versus putting it into infrastructure and investments that will then form the basis of the marine highway system for generations to come. So we've done great over the last 50 years, but the marine highway system needs to look a lot different than what we've gotten to know in the past. But just kind of a snapshot of the transportation infrastructure. And when I talk about the marine highway system, I do it in the broad context of what its role is in the intermodal system. It's got to connect to roads, it's got to connect to airports, it's got to connect to rail where you've got it. And so, what are the resources that we've got to make that system work, and explore partnerships with the private sector as well as we take a look at the needs. So to extract from that, to see what is available, there's a new program now that is kind of mirrored after the Essential Air Service that Senator Murkowski single-handedly arm wrestled into the bill, that will provide service, some basic service to rural communities that are 50 miles off of the main line. So it's meant to really support the rural communities that rely on this for a larger percentage of its most critical needs. And then, of course, the ferry program, we're going to talk a lot more about that here in just a minute, which I think is the most exciting piece that is before us. So these next few slides are excerpts from presentations that were given at Southeast Conference's annual meeting in September. The full presentations are on our website, so if this piques your curiosity and you want to go see the full presentations that were made, you can go back to the website. But I threw a number of slides in here that you'll be able to refer to. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them, but I want to give you just enough information to hopefully keep your interest and participate going forward, because we're all going to have a role in making this happen. But the community of Skagway has really been interested in seeing how to move forward with electrification. In Southeast, we, much like down this way, there's a lot of hydro. And so, how can we utilize hydro resources in everyday life? We talk about beneficial electrification. Well, here's one way to meet a federal goal of lower emissions. And so we're trying to twin those and take a look at what is the right size vessels and where could they go. And because this is Skagway-centric, but it still applies. The concept being that for the shorter routes, less than 15, 20 miles, you could move forward with an all-electric vessel. And so Homer, Soldovia, what is that mileage? 13. Okay, there's a winner. Okay, you've won a lifetime residency in Soldovia. So okay. But so that could be one of those scenarios. It probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's in the Kennecott over there. But hey, you got to use what you got. Yeah. But that's not an effective way to spend your money. And so since we want to invest in right-sized purpose-built vessels and deploy them in a cost-effective way, we've got to take a look at a different future. And this could be that different future, which then spins the meters for Brad a little bit more, and it actually has a lot of community benefits in dispatching and fully utilizing the resources that you have. For longer routes, less than 100 miles or though, probably a hybrid system of the two. And so I don't see this really ever playing a role in the main line. So you're not going to try to convert your Kennecotts or Columbias. You maybe get just some derivatives of natural gas use or other ways of doing hybrids. But as far as the electric hookups, this is kind of the blend that we're looking at. There's a lot more work that has to go into building the pilot program for that. And then just a few slides here, what some of these attributes could be. You can refer back to those as you have time later on, because he's going to come after me with a hook if I'm more than 19 and a half minutes. But generally speaking, the all-electric version carry about 15 vessels, be about 120 feet in length, and be able to hook up to a shore power. What that looks like, not totally sure. That's why we got to do our investigation. But in my mind, some variation of a battery bank or interface there at the dock that then could be utilizing resources that are not being utilized shoreside as spillage happens or as time of day usage varies. That could always be building up the battery bank that then could be hooked into. A hybrid electric, a little more robust, but still right size. Costs a little bit more to operate, but still be able to go that little additional distance in capacity for route length. And then just kind of a comparison between, for the geeks that get into, okay, battery versus diesel, what's that power ratio? That's what it is. But these are kind of a number of the different things that to go into it. We still have to do a lot of due diligence in the communities that would be impacted, to take a look at the generation side, what is the capacity there in the communities, the grid to get from the community through the community to the port interface, and then of course the propulsion systems themselves, which these slides here that have thrustmaster on it came from the vendor themselves. So there's just that caveat out there. They are an all-American, and I don't think there's a whole lot of them in the United States that do this kind of work, but they attended and provided this information, so we appreciated that. So a lot of work, but a lot of opportunity, and even in our small rural communities where this could still be a net benefit. It's not just for the Marine Highway System components, but it also could provide a community benefit as well, to be able to lower the rate of power cost by utilizing it more efficiently and effectively. So all of these are things that are going to be before the new operations board, which Shirley Marquardt has been appointed to. Are you the only member in this room that's, I think? Okay, so, and we're glad to see her on there. She has got so many years of experience in this. I'm going to be in the audience, supporting her as going forward. Waiting for one more appointment of the union member. The Senate President made his last two appointments. My understanding is that they will meet probably sometime next month for their first meeting to kick things off, to take a look at both short-term and long-term planning. At the same time, the Federal Highway System, Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Authority, they're all working to stand up the regulations for the new federal funds that are coming for the new programs, et cetera. So there's still a lot of unknowns, but we are trying to frame the issues so that when the time comes, the monies can be well spent, they can be directed, because there's a 5-year window on a lot of these funding opportunities. So to me, it's an exciting way to be able to take these funds and invest them in the right size investment. Now we're excited about the Tuscaloosa getting replaced and built, but that's been talked about for at least a decade. I'm not even paying attention to that anymore. That's like yesterday's news. We've got to take a look at the new fleet and how we're going to be able to design and operate those with certainty and standardization going forward. So these are a lot of the things that are really important to the Alaska Marine Highway System, but at the same time, it's got to exist in an environment that connects it to the right things at the right time. We can't have half-full ferries followed by a quarter-full ferry being chased by a slow-moving barge that's not being well utilized, and everyone wondering why our rates are high and nothing is really integrated very well. So here's a picture of a well-integrated port. I'm not sure where this is at. Anybody recognize that? There you go. Okay. Okay, so she's moving to Seward next. There's where you've got rail, where you've got roads, you've got to have integration, and partnering with the private sector, we don't have the luxury of being able to do our operations in a bubble or in silos. So looking forward to working with communities and with the private sector to work with the state to create the vision going forward. So I really appreciate the fact that both the legislature and the governor has made this a priority. That's how we got this. And so, a shout out to all of those involved there and for the opportunity, because one of the things that you all are going to have to be able to play a part in is because for the next 5 years, there's going to be all kinds of money. We can spend it on all kinds of service, or we can say, don't give me so much service. Meet my basic needs and invest the rest of that money into the right boats, and the right terminals, and the right electrification, the right propulsion. So anyway, that's what is coming down the pathway to our communities. A lot of money, but you know what? If we're not ready, somebody else is going to be. And so this is something I pulled out of the paper. You know, everywhere else in America is looking at these funds too, and they're all competitively acquired. So we've got to make sure that we're ready with a plan. We're ready to go after all these funds if possible. And that is what I had to share with you, and we look forward to talking with you at breaks or throughout the year. So anyway, thank you for the invite to be here, and we'll talk to you soon.